Hello everyone and Assalamu Alaikum. I'm your host Nabhan Umar and I welcome you back to yet another Radio LUMS podcast episode celebrating the achievements of our students. This year, a fearless team of 7 from LUMS represented Pakistan and absolutely crushed it on an international stage. They took home the coveted Best Small Delegation Award, becoming the first non-American and European team to win 2 years in a row. This victory is a huge win, not just for LUMS, but also Pakistan. For those of you who don't know, the Harvard National Model United Nations, most commonly known as HNMUN, is the grandfather of Model UN conferences. Imagine a high-pressure debate filled with 1,800 students from top universities around the world like Princeton, Stanford, and Yale. That's HNMUN. Today, I'm joined by Sabeen Hamood and Rohail Hasan, 2 individuals from the 7 that took not just the society of LUMUN or LUMS to new heights, but Pakistan as well. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing really, really good.
That's
How are
amazing.
you?
I'm well. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm amazing. So just, brief me in on the accolades and achievements that you guys won at this conference.
Sabeen, how about you start?
Right. So I won the Best Delegate Award, alhamdulillah, which in MUN terms is the first position award that you get. So essentially, you're ranked on the basis of your speaking style. You're ranked on the basis of your diplomacy and also your drafting, in which you essentially draft policies on an international forum, keeping in mind the country that you're presenting and also considering the topic that you have. So for example, my topic, I was in the European Union. I was representing Portugal and my topic was on environmental tipping points. So the policy that we created was regarding all of that. So, alhamdulillah, I managed to bag the Best Delegate Award.
That's amazing. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Rohail, what about you?
Well, so on an individual level, just how Sabeen ranked first, I ranked third in my committee. And as a collective, because of Sabeen's outstanding achievement of winning Best Delegate, we were able to achieve 5 points just through one committee. In my committee, Hubaib and I, we both collectively won honorable mention, which is third position. So that was 6 points. And we got 11 points, which is a very, very high score for a team at HNMUN. And because of those 11 points and, of course, the efforts of the entire team, we were declared champions of the world.
That's amazing. You're talking about a point system. Could you just give a bit of an insight as to exactly how a person wins through this point system?
Right. So I'm really glad finally someone asked this question because we've been on these talk shows and all they ask is the flight. And
that's what makes us different. Subscribe.
So essentially, the way MUN works is that your team is divided into different committee rooms. Model United Nations is you're simulating the United Nations, and in the United Nations you have different committees. So each team member goes into a different committee room to debate a different topic. I think I kind of understand why they don't ask these questions. But so we all, although we are a team, we went and fought alone. Except for the people who were paired up, like Hubaib and I were paired up. So we go fight, we debate alone. And then in that room of, let's say, 100, we're ranked. So Sabeen ranked first, I ranked third. And each ranking has a relative point to it. And then at the end of the conference, what they do is they accumulate the ranking points the entire, the delegations have brought. And the team with the highest ranking points wins. And that was us, alhamdulillah.
Congratulations. So naturally, you guys have been getting a lot of traction ever since you've been back. We'll get to that later, but how exactly has life been now that the entire burden of the society is off of your shoulders? Aren't you a bit uneasy now that MUN isn't the sole purpose on your mind?
Well, I think that even if, for me, Rohail is obviously a senior and he's going to be graduating this year, I'm just a freshman. So this is the start of my journey. And while, yes, the initial pressure, which was of sort of establishing myself in the society and establishing how I do have the drive that it needs to sort of thrive in a situation like HNMUN, while that is definitely off my shoulder and I've achieved that basic benchmark, but I do think at the end of the day, it's just a benchmark. I think I have a lot to prove to the society in the upcoming 3 years, not just to LUMUN, but to any sort of endeavor that I take up. And to LUMS itself. So for me, while that initial pressure is off, it's definitely set me up, and I think I just want to sort of ride that wave and inshallah go on to achieve greater heights.
Inshallah.
So I've been doing this thing for 8 years, and
bit of a brag,
No, it's pretty sad. Like if there's anyone watching this, 8 years of MUN, like that's pretty disappointing.
I think from the conversation that we had, you actually were planning to leave the society before you became head delegate.
Yeah, because like if you're in senior and you're still doing MUNs, you need a life. So I'm glad I got that life once I'm back. Alhamdulillah, back to the masjid. Life's good. But the thing is, when you're doing something for 8 years, you're obviously chasing something.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that can drive you through 8 years of this nonsense sport. It's the most frustrating and difficult sport you could honestly sign up for. And the reason why the pressure was so high is because at the 8th year, you are told that that's it. This is your last run. It's your last dance. You can't do more of this. And to look back at 8 years and having not won would hurt for a long time. So the pressure was high for sure. Like, it's your last chance to win. And well, that's where the duas came in, and alhamdulillah, we pulled through. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure off my shoulder.
So tell me exactly, how does one join such a coveted team? Are there any trials for this, or is it more of a precedent basis?
So every year a head delegate is selected by the president of the society. The first job the head delegate has is that they have to first market the whole idea of HNMUN to the LUMS community. And then after marketing it, you have trials. And you have like around 50 people coming up to trials, and then they're meant to take a team from there. So the head delegate trains people for the trials. Pretty interesting. Not only is that person the judge, but he's also the trainer.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone watching who wants to join the team in the future, what you could do is next year round, keep up to date with the LUMUN Society's posts. Very soon they're going to post when the trainings are starting for the trials, then the trials, and then Boston.
So now that you've taken the cream of the crop, essentially, right? The best of the best, that too from LUMS. Run me through the entire routine. How important was team collaboration, and how strenuous was the learning process?
Right. So essentially, 2 months, when we're 2 months away, we started training sessions, and it's every day, 3 hours a day in the DRs. That's the formula. 3 hours, we're there, we're meeting. And usually, what you do is, one would assume that debating is where you're discussing how to debate, what your arguments are. It's actually none of that. 1.5 months of those 2 months is planning on how to talk to the people in their language.
So do you think there is a stereotype that you kind of had to diminish around Pakistani people before you went ahead to this competition?
Right. So it was my first time traveling outside of Pakistan, and there was a sort of fear, you could say, regarding how in that particular session, in that particular environment, how I would be received, how the team would be received. And we also went in with I went in with a very strong hold on my Pakistani identity, even though we were representing Portugal. But when you introduce yourself and people ask you where you're from, you say that you're Pakistani, and you have a lot of conversations with people who are very interested in knowing where you're from. And when I went there, there were a few initial questions that sort of threw me off, because when I was speaking in my committee once, this delegate asked me, you guys are formal MUNs, like, you know what an MUN is. Like, for them, it's sort of an alien concept to even consider that a country like Pakistan has MUNs or even public speaking or any such sort of activity as a proper sort of initiative. So in that sense, I feel like there was that sort of initial stereotype that we had to break. But last year, considering that we won, LUMS won, we had already sort of kind of melted that particular perspective a little bit. But this year around, I think we really nailed it in. Like 2 years in a row, we won. We've literally solidified our standing in the international community when it comes to this particular sport.
That's great. How many times did you guys accidentally fall down a Wikipedia rabbit hole while researching your assigned country? Did you emerge with any random historical trivia that you want to share with us?
Oh, so for that you have to research.
So from the conversations we've had, I've understood that it's more of a strategy game rather than knowing your things.
Yeah. See, let's call a spade a spade. If you're doing MUNs, you need to know how to do 2 things. Number 1, strategize well. Number 2, really, really well. That's it.
Wise words indeed. So did you ever feel the pressure as you set foot inside the conference? Was there any moment where you felt like, okay, there may not be a chance where I'd win?
So there was a moment. This is one night before. For me, it was like 7 months. For them, it was 4 months of just thinking about this one conference. The travel, the fatigue, the stress, the anxiety. It's one night before the conference. Tomorrow's war. And everyone's nervous. Everyone's at their weakest. But the problem is, I was glad that my team was coming to me. So we had team members coming up to me and, you know, breaking down and, you know, Rohail, like, I can't do this tomorrow. And then you're you know, counseling them, you're giving them time. But that's when I realized, bro, I'm scared too. I'm sorry for the language, but I would like, that was really, really scared. And I had no one to talk to. Because when you're captain, there's literally no one to go and cry to or freak out to. Bro, in that moment for me, it was like, okay, I don't have a head delegate here. I'm like, hold up. I do have a head delegate. I went, I pulled out my travel Janimas. Hobeb was sleeping in the room, didn't want to disturb him, so I laid it outside in the lobby and I just bawled on that Janimas because I was like, Alamya, like, this is too difficult. This is so much stress, so much money, so much time. I have to fake strength to this team and I can't do it. But that's when I realized that's where the help comes from. And it was with me for the next 5 days.
So you were talking about a certain, you know, MUNFAM, if you may. So tell me, there's often a lot of MUNFAM associated with international trips as such. Can you highlight exactly how your bond has developed with the team and how it really strengthened through some personal or funny instances that you like to share with us?
Sabeen, you want to take that?
So it's definite. I think Rohail once said to us at the start of our training sessions, he said, you really, really get to know a person when you travel with them. And I think that's spot on. When I first walked into training sessions, there were a lot of people that I was very scared of. I was intimidated of because of their previous experience, because of the fact that they were older than me, considering only me and Shanze and me were the only freshmen on the team. So it was very daunting in that regards. But, you know, once you start traveling with someone, you spend a lot of time with them, you do sort of have a very strong bond in the sense that these 7 individuals that are around you, all of you are going through the exact same thing. And while you may be dealing with it differently, and while you may have different means of sort of taking out that stress, some people show it more, some people don't. But the thing is, at the end of the day, everybody's sort of going through the same thing. And you're all in it together, and you're all very cognizant of the fact that you're in it together. I found it very, very easy to talk to everyone. Like, I remember we would be sitting in our hotel room at the end of every session and we would be debriefing. Like, I would be telling Rohail and Hubeb and Laiba and Manur, everyone, like, this is what happened in the committee today. This is what went wrong. I'm really scared. And, you know, on your previous question as well, I remember, like, a day before the closing ceremony, I was like, Rohail, I messed up. Like, I'm not winning. Like, I messed up completely. But, you know, at that point, he really pulled through for me. He was like, chill out, it's okay. But then I'm sure that when he had his moments, there were other people on the team that sort of took up that role. So it is, you know, you do become a family in that regard. You become each other's support system and you really, really do step up and help each other out. And it's amazing. And I do feel like these people are some of very few individuals who I'll be able to stay in contact with even after I leave LUMS.
That's great. Adding on to that, Rohail, if you could just highlight one small thing that you enjoyed, not MUN related, in this trip, what would it be and why?
Oh, so this is an easy one. It's the conference over. We've won. Life's good. We're in New York and we pull up to Central Park and we find the cycle stand and they're like really nice cycles there. We negotiate with the dude and he gives us the cycles. Cycling through Central Park with the entire team. Naban, I can't explain how fun that was. It was cold, it was freezing cold, but Central Park was just so beautiful. The vibe was beautiful, the stress was gone, and just, I miss that bike ride every day.
That's great. On to the main moment, the winning moment. We've all seen you do this all around social media, but could you just run me through what you guys felt? And this question is for both of you. And lastly, who exactly do you owe this win to?
Sabeen.
So initially, first they sort of give out the individual committee awards and then they go on towards the team awards.
Yeah.
So I'll be very honest with you, when the individual committee awards were announced, I was in shock because I really didn't understand what had just happened. The gravity of my win really didn't settle in at that moment. And I was terrified because I knew that I had won my award, but I wasn't really sure where the team stood, because while everyone had been before and they were doing the whole point system in their heads, I had no idea. I was blank. I didn't really understand what just happened and how the ratio was sort of adjusted. So I was really scared. Even when I went to take my BD and I came back and I sat down, I was still really scared. And then the moment that they announced the Best Delegation Award, that's when I was like, oh my God, we did it. And that's really when my win settled in as well. When I saw the entire team celebrating, that's when I felt pride in my own self as well, because I realized that my win contributed to a much bigger thing, which was the success of our team and then our university and most importantly Pakistan. And to your question, what exactly do we owe this to? For me personally, I'd say while we talk about strategizing, while we talk about research, I'll even say that my parents, like I remember my dad used to come pick me up from university at 11:30 at night after training sessions. All of those things are very important variables that do go into it. But I think the defining factor is, of course, there is a lot of divine help. There are times when everything just goes into your favor, where doors open that you don't even can fathom opening. Everything becomes easy, and that is honestly the only thing I can attribute any of my success to is God.
Okay. Rohail?
Yeah, so for a long time I've been thinking about, so when I try to motivate myself, I try motivating myself by thinking about the win. So for 8 months I've been thinking of that moment. And throughout the training, Sabeen and the team would know that I kept emphasizing that trust Allah, just trust Allah, trust Allah. And I'll be honest, I'm no saint, and I'm not standing here and saying I have a lot of trust in Allah. I'm weak. But I was faking it in that moment because that was the only way we could pull this off. Kept telling the team, trust Allah, trust Allah. And we went through a lot of difficult moments. And it was those moments where I actually sat down like, if I tell these guys trust Allah, they're just going to be like, bro, it didn't work out. What were you saying? So there were moments, and then every single time a miracle would happen. Manur didn't get a visa. We get to Boston one night before, Manur pulls up. It's miracle after miracle. We weren't getting finances. We were able to fund it. Miracle after miracle. Every single time when you hit the wall, and we were like, okay, there's no way out. I need to really tone down the trust Allah part. Otherwise, these people become atheists. It's when Allah pulled through. So in that closing ceremony in Nabhan, I had made calculations for the win, and we hadn't reached those points to win. And in that moment, I realized that we're losing. And it was a sinking feeling. It's the first time I'm saying this. Even Sabeen probably hasn't heard it. Before the award win announced, I was convinced that we're about to lose. But I just had gone too far now with the trust Allahs. And I just had to trust him one more time when the wall was right there. There was a wall in front of me. And I knew that pehle ho chuka tha, and that's why if you've seen the video of saying Allah pehle bhi saath hai, abhi bhi saath hai, rahenge. I was talking to myself, man. Because I was so scared. I was so damn scared. So I just faked it one last time. I'm like, guys, just trust Allah. Just trust Allah. Allah pulled through.
And often, when things are out of your control, you can only turn to someone who can control them. And that's exactly what you guys did. It could be the visa, the finances, or even the last win. One last question to the both of you. If a group of enthusiastic LUMS students were just starting the journey, what advice would you give them based on your experience?
Well, for me, I'd say, especially for people who've never done an MUN before and who are scared of public speaking, is just speak. Just do it. I've never had any formal MUN training other than Rohail being my coach for those couple of months. And I've done plenty of MUNs by the time I actually ended up coming from the trials and joining the team. And I come from a very small institution when I was doing my O-levels, and we didn't really have a proper MUN team. I was actually the first female ever who'd done an MUN in my school. And all I did at that MUN was speak. I had no strategy in mind. I didn't even know the rules and procedures. All I knew was that I had to speak. And the more I spoke, the more I realized that, wait, this is something I can do. This is something I don't have to be afraid of. And I think this goes for not only people who are doing MUNs, but just people overall. It's very important for you to realize that you have to speak. You have the mandate to speak. You have the authority to speak. And that's all you need to capitalize on.
So, as a public speaking coach, I always tell my students that, listen guys, the only way to improve as public speaking is you throw yourself into the arena. Continuously throw yourself into the arena. Now the problem is, it's very easy to sit here and give advice. A lot of people give advice. That's what I don't like about podcasts. Rich, successful people, I'm not rich, I'm not successful. But rich, successful people come and just give advice.
Yeah.
I want to change stuff. So if there are people listening to this who actually want to improve their public speaking, I, Rohail Hasan, hereby declare myself available to you. You can find me on masterorator.pk. I will take out the time and I will train you. This is if you're in LUMS or if you're outside LUMS and hearing this, I want to play my part in giving back to this nation, and I want to do it through teaching people public speaking.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Sabeen and Rohail. Thank you very much for watching. You're tuning into Radio LUMS, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, and Allah Hafiz.